Totally.
Hello, everybody. I am Haley Lynn Gray, and I am here as your guide through the Alchemy of Successful Online Marketing Summit. Today's guest is somebody I have been a fan of for quite a while, and I worked with him on branding for one of my previous businesses and was completely blown away at his just vision and meticulous implementation and strategy here. This is just amazing and such an honor to have David Brier here. He is an internationally recognized brand expert, rebranding specialist, and author ranked #3 worldwide for branding by Clout. David has the distinction of being presented the Presidential Ambassador for Global Entrepreneurship Medallion, presented to those who provide insights to companies, entrepreneurs, and startups for leadership, marketing, and entrepreneurial innovation. And branding excellence, excuse me. His new book, Brand Intervention, 33 Steps to Transform the Brand You Have into the Brand You Need, with a foreword by Shark Tank investor Daymond John, is an Amazon bestseller. David and his work have been featured in Adweek, Forbes, Inc., Huffington Post, Entrepreneur, Thrive Global, and the New York Times, and numerous blogs and podcasts around the world. And I am so glad and honored to have him here with us for the Alchemy of Successful Online Marketing. Welcome, David.
Oh, thank you, Haley. Great to see you. Thank you for that introduction. It's awesome.
Thank you. This is so exciting to have you here talking to us today about branding and the 4 pillars. So welcome.
Absolutely. Well, you know, if you don't have 4 pillars, what do you really have? Maybe a nice cup of coffee or maybe a nice little lunch somewhere, but 4 pillars, they're pretty incomparable.
That's pretty cool. Let's do it.
Okay. Very, very good. Good. So what I put together here for you and the listeners is basically, I really wanted to have something that would be easily digestible, immediately applicable, and useful just right out of the gate. And so I've broken this down, and I've never actually presented this exact presentation before. I put it together just for you, Haley, because you have a soft spot in my heart. So with that, here we go. So obviously we all know brands, okay? We know the Apples of the world. We know the Nikes of the world. We know the Starbuckses, and we know the Coca-Colas, and everybody wants to kind of have their own one. And we all hear in conversations, oh, I'm going to be the next Uber of blah, 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 blah. I'm going to be the next Slack of blah, 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 blah. I'm going to be the, and everybody has these great inspirations, which is fine. But so much of it comes down to actual implementation. And a lot of the times, the little details are missed or not understood that make the difference as to whether you're going to gain traction or not. So with that case in point, somewhere in the world, someone is being bored to death sitting through a brand story that sucks. That's right. Sucks is a highly technical term in my industry, and that's the one we're using right now. And this ends now as far as horrible stories, horrible brand presentations, and just stuff that doesn't stick. I mean, I would, if I were in a room with you all right now, I'd say by a show of hands, who here has been in a presentation that absolutely they could not wait until it ended, and guaranteed 99% of the people in the room would raise their hands. So we've all experienced it. And so this is the remedy, the antidotes to the problem. Now, before we do that, I wanted to share with you a 2-minute video, which happened to go viral on YouTube. And it's called What is Branding? And I think that it will actually really put things together for you.
What is branding? As creators, we want to think it's about us, our brilliant talent, our skills we perfected over the years, all these magical things: color, space, shape, tension, harmony, typography, beauty, simplicity. Then why do certain brands become great brands? Brands that connect, resonate, and spread like wildfire. It's because we tapped into our ability to see, not as ourselves, but as others. To see the minute details and trends others don't see. not just on the computer screen, or in books, or in galleries, but in and through the eyes, hearts, and minds of people. Geniuses have that special skill to look at the universe of people and translate that into the universe of visual and written communications, to transform those observations we each sense into something we can each tangibly see and understand. That is the magic. That is the spark. That is the genius that gets each of us interested and keeps us going for something greater, for something previously impossible, for something nobody ever thought of before. That is the magic of branding.
So that gives you an overview of branding. But to really make sure that this has value to you, I want to make sure we're all clear on the definition for branding. And the reason being is this: not too long ago, I ended up I looked for the word branding, or actually books on the topic of branding in Amazon. So I typed in branding in a little search box, pressed search, and at the time came back with over 6,000 books. Now it's about 8,300. I recently did it again. 8,300 books on the topic of branding. Okay. So when I know that there's that many ideas about something so specific, this isn't love or romance or adult fantasy, kind of young adult fantasy books or things of that nature. This is something very specific that businesses use as a tool. And to have that many theories and ideas and opinions, I wanted to find out what's the actual fundamental simplicity that everyone was overlooking. So with that came down to 4 words. And to understand the 4 words, this particular little demonstration I put together for you. Which one of these did you notice first? Interestingly, everyone always says the green one, but yet there's a 3-to-1 ratio that you should have noticed the amber ones first. So what did the green one do that it made us notice that one first? And that gives us the definition. Branding is the art of differentiation. So when we're talking about differentiation, that is where branding has its role. Differentiation in terms of color, in terms of design, in terms of language, in terms of presentation, in terms of where we show up. Branding is the art of differentiation. So with that, what do unstoppable brands do? They utilize the 4 pillars of branding. And those 4 pillars are these. 1, you need to know your sweet spot. 2, you need to simplify complexities. 3, you need to actually stand for something real. And 4, you need to use design to crystallize, differentiate, and engage. So I want to go dig a little deeper into each one of these. So here's where the adventure begins. 1, know your sweet spot. So here we have this. You need to know what your audience wants and demands and is urgently seeking a solution to. Okay? You can have the greatest idea, but if it is not either made real or perceivable on the part of your audience, it's not going to matter. Now, the more you answer that, the more you become relevant. Okay? So if they really want, and I'll just give you a case in point as an example, because this all has to do with knowing your audience. So one example I use is if you actually have a father and a son walk into a car showroom, and the father's taken the son, he's turned of age where he can now finally drive on his own. Father's going to get him a vehicle. And they see this nice entry-level, cool looking, nice red car. And the father, looking at this, he's thinking of the safety rating and the miles per gallon. The son, looking at the exact same vehicle, is thinking to himself, chick magnet. Now, same vehicle, but right there in that showroom with the father and son were 2 different audiences. You've got to know what your audience really wants and demands. So, to continue. So the more relevant, the more valuable. And the more commonplace and average you're offering, the less valuable. So that's the first one. Number 2 pillar, simplify complexities. So with this, experts and doctors, they often fall into this trap. They think that the more complex something is that they make, the better it is, right? Using big words and contracts that could be 2 pages or 25 pages and whatever. It's all made very, very complex, all to sort of match the amount of diplomas we oftentimes will see on their walls. Now, real experts know differently. Real experts know that it's in simplicity where true power resides. See, the great expert will walk in and spot something. And for those of you that are fans of Shark Tank, of which I am, you'll notice that the sharks have the ability to say, well, what about this and what about that? And they'll point out something that is so obvious when they say it, but the presenter, the company doing the pitching, can sometimes miss. They're so mired into the complexities, into the nuances, that they lost sight of the bigger picture. So real experts know that it's in simplicity where true power resides. So anyone trying to sell you how complex it all is full of it. So pillar number 3, stand for something real. So a cousin to simplicity is authenticity, reality for something you really care about. So don't follow trends just because they're trends. That's not the way. Find out why those trends are coming into play and find the undelivered need that is driving all of that adoption. So that's the thing that you really, really want here. You want to really stand for something that's really real. If you don't have that sort of artificial doing it for the transaction or whatever like that, it will be very shallow, and it will be apparent, and you won't end up getting the kind of stickiness that you want when it comes to brands. Now 4, you want to use design to crystallize, differentiate, and engage. So design is a tool. Some people think that design is, I'll just go on one of these little services online and I'll get them to make something look pretty. Design, the role of design is not prettiness. The role of design is clarification. The role of design is for impact. The role of design is to elevate your point of differentiation. Going back to branding. What is branding? The art of differentiation. If you're using design on a very, very thin understanding and going, let's just change the colors and make it look prettier. It's like, why? What does that have to do? And how does that really serve us to really differentiate us? So design is to branding what aroma is to food. Okay, design gets us salivating for what we have yet to experience. Oftentimes, let's look at this. Design oftentimes is promoting something that we might just see online. We don't have experience. We read other people's reviews, but it's the first thing that gets us engaged. What about that new model of a smartphone that's coming out? Ooh, that gets us going. Ooh, I want that. That's design. Or that really cool sneaker. Ooh, that's design. Or that car. Ooh, that's design. Or that app that's on a particular phone and the way we can use it, the user experience. That's design. So you use design to bridge that expectation factor, not merely to inform, but instead to engage. And one thing that I tell people oftentimes is that, facts are boring. Okay? Don't just relay facts. If that's the case, send a piece of paper. You're not adding any value to that dialogue. You want, when you are communicating and talking about your brand, it needs to be engaging. It needs to involve you and me and take me someplace. You need to transport me from my current understanding to a new understanding. So just some examples. And again, I've got them up right up here. You'll see that it says, know your sweet spot, simplify the complexity, stand for something real, use design to crystallize and differentiate. So with that, here's an example of a brand. And by the way, these are more B2B, but these apply, or B2C actually. But I will tell you that these principles apply to B2B, B2C, nonprofits, anywhere and everywhere. It does not, the notion, the myth that, is this B2B or does this apply to B2C? That is all false. I will tell you, I've been doing this for over 30 years, and that is not true, because at the end of the day, it's a person who's making the decision, whether for a business or whether for the personal needs. The criteria will be different, but it's a person that you need to impact. So what you see here, this is what their package looked like before. It's hard to read. It's not particularly attractive. Those little shapes in the middle under where it says dried venison or dried beef, those are little windows showing you the product, which did no justice to it. Then there's the hummingbird logo. Why there was a hummingbird logo, the owner and I have laughed about that. There's no real rhyme or reason to it, but that's what their packaging looked like before. And they were moving some product. I was amazed. They were actually moving some product. But this now is the new product, okay? It's the same product, but now instead of showing it the way it was before, now we took photographs, we gave it a color code so you knew what was venison, you knew it was beef, you knew what was chicken, etc. And play hard, snack often. The logo has been entirely cleaned up. And also the whole positioning in terms of standing for something real, we now reference this as nature's original protein bar. So it really made it, so we simplified, you look at it, know your sweet spot. Our sweet spot was something that was simple and easy to enjoy. We also knew that all the other jerkies tended to have a rustic sort of kind of, lumberjack kind of vibe to them. And so we went with a cleaner overall look and feel. And so that's an example of before and after. And their sales are doing great. Last I spoke to them, they were up about 147% year over year. So nice work. Again, another example. This is one of New York's premier landscapers, Steve Griggs. Now, Steve had come to me and we have the most hysterical conversations. I'm a native New Yorker, for those of you that don't know. So when you get a couple of New Yorkers together, boy, do we say things that are probably best left only to our memories. But the things that are amusing here are, this was his card. And I said, Steve, you do these incredible projects for wealthy families, wealthy individuals, some celebrities, people who value real quality and craftsmanship. And this does not do you justice. And I basically told him the word known for saying, I said, this is horrible. And now instead, this is the card that he gives people, to which he says people are blown away by the difference. They now actually know, by meeting him and then being given the card, that he doesn't leave things to chance. He doesn't overlook the little details. And that's an example of, like, he just doesn't overlook the details. The card is thick. You could cut a steak with it practically. And it's amazing and it's gorgeous to look at. And the people that he told me, the response is uniformly, OMG. Now this is a different kind of product. This is out of the Netherlands. This is a product for a health supplement line. This looks like something you would find in Walmart. It doesn't look valuable. It doesn't look great. But we wanted to know, what are our 4 pillars? Know our sweet spot, simplify complexities, stand for something real, and use design to crystallize, differentiate, and engage. So the sweet spot was, this looked like everything else. That's not a sweet spot. That's a sort of, that at that point, you're going to compete on price. Simplify the complexities. This is like, okay, this is, again, there's just whatever. It's just, there's visual noise here that's not necessary. Stand for something real. It's like, okay, leaves, green leaves, whatever. It's like, all right, it's an idea. It's like visual poetry, but it's not really doing much. And the design doesn't crystallize, differentiate, or engage. This is now the new brand. And what you see there, it's clean, it's simple. It practices the art of differentiation, which is branding. You see the product at the top, the item at the top, the particular supplement. You have the brand is right there, front and center. And anyway, it's stunning, it's clean, it is unmistakable from all the rest. And this is what it looks like on a smartwatch, on the Apple's watch, actually. Now, with that, and I have plenty of examples, but I'm going to give you a couple of tools that you'll find immediately useful. So what you see here, this is something that Haley's going to tell you about. This is a free ebook, The Lucky Brand. Probably tens of thousands of people around the world have gone ahead and downloaded this. It's great. When you download it, you subscribe to our blog, and I can pretty much predict you will get more information and insight in 2 months from us than you probably have gotten. I don't care what marketing classes you've done, what continuing ed, what books you've read, you will learn, because this is real stuff. This is not just one-dimensional case study type things or theories that only apply if you're Coca-Cola. This works whether you're large and small. And so this is going to be something that is immediately available. You can download it today, right after this, whenever you want. And additionally, I recently completed what I basically had spent about 2 years and 3 rewrites working on. This is a book. I wrote this. It is amazingly, it's visually stunning. Its content is awesome. My goal was I wanted to have the book that brands, startups, and CEOs could use who didn't have time to read a book on branding. That's who this book was actually written for. The way it's designed is unlike anything else. It shows you rather than just tells you. And I did not flesh out a bunch of more words to explain 2 paragraphs, because I was frustrated. I found that of let's say the average business book is 250 to 300 pages. Out of that, I usually found 10 pages to have the actual meat and the other 290 pages to be fluff and filler. And I did not want to do that. I refused to do that. So what I did was, just give you a little sneak peek here. This is the front and the back of the book. And this is the beginning of the foreword by Damon John. Damon John from Shark Tank. That Damon John? Yes, that Damon John. Did Damon John write that for the book? Yes, he did. Just want to make sure, in case there's any confusion, that we're clear on that particular point. Now, throughout the book, there are these. So these actually are punched up points, as opposed to sort of trying to say, hey, remember this, remember this. There's about 15 of these throughout the book that are designed to really punch home these points that are important to you and your brand, and your brand's really making it, and it's thriving. This is the way an opening chapter looks. Did John Lennon write the quote to this? Yes, he did. Did I speak to John? Well, I was a little late to the scene for actually speak to him, but the quote was perfect. Reality leaves a lot to the imagination. And this is an example of a chapter. This is the way the chapters look. And the thing that surprised me remarkably was people who are 50 and older open the book and they look at this and they go, finally, a book I can read without cheaters, which cracked me up. And then the younger generation, so the millennials and earlier, they look at it and they go, whoa, man, you totally get me. It's like 5 sentences on a spread, dude. And so it's actually pretty funny because they love it because it's how they grew up. I sometimes jokingly say that those of us who are older, we grew up in neighborhoods. Those who are younger, their neighborhoods was Facebook. Okay. And so they're accustomed to these short snippets. So I found by chance, it actually appealed to both sectors. That takes you up to about page 197. Then when you get to this, the last 50 pages of the book, you actually get to what I call the playbook. And that actually shows you how this stuff was done. Once you've learned the concepts in the book, you now see, you'll look at the top left there, it says exceeding expectations. And then I tell you, this is how it looked. And I make a joke that the one on the left, that was actually their meal replacement. I said, that doesn't look like a meal replacement. That looks like a condom. I said that, I hate to tell you that, it doesn't really look like a little meal replacement. It's the wrong shape, the wrong size, the wrong material, everything. But that shows you the before and the after, and you get the actual insight as to why it was done. This other one, this is embracing disruption. This is for a food company. And actually, after I completed the book, this came to me because this really was like, wow, because it had been a long-term project, that it's the job of each of us to rescue ideas, dreams, and inspirations before they reach the junk heap of compromise and mediocrity. I hope you join me in this mission. And so that basically gives you the 4 pillars. And here are places you can hook up with me. And there's my website. But that gives you the 4 pillars, which I wanted to give you in a really bam, bam, bam thing. And I would definitely recommend watching this a time or two to really get the most out of it. And Haley, if you have questions for me, I am all ears. If you've got can you embellish on that point? I'd be glad to do anything you need.
This is really, really, really helpful. Thank you. One of the things that people talk about is authenticity and standing out. And how do you stand out if everybody else is standing out?
Sure. So the thing I would say is it's an exercise that every brand goes through that I work on. We look at I call this noise level. So you look at what's everybody doing, with almost without exception, honestly, almost without exception. Every space, people tend to be doing variations on a theme. So if everybody's like being wild and outrageous and you may need to be the quiet voice of reason. Mm-hmm. Or if everybody's sort of flat and doing PowerPoint things and doing all this kind of stuff and being like, and using too many words, too much of this, too much of that, you might need to be contrarian and go, you know what? I'm only going to show visuals. I'm not going to give you one single, you've had enough words, those are just a couple of examples. But with all of those, I find that every industry and every space, 95% or more of the people are doing variations on a theme. And if you observe that sort of common thread, now you'll find that commonality now becomes part of your strategy. You go, okay, if we just also do our version of that, we're going to just add to the noise. Mm-hmm. We're not going to rise above the noise, but we're also going to violate branding, which is the art of differentiation. We're going to just be like that. If everybody's waving yellow flags, you may need to be waving a purple one, or you may not be wave at all. You may just break out there and do the most amazing whatever performance of this, that, the other. Or you may choose a completely different channel. Let's say, for example, you're in a space where everybody's doing YouTube. Mm-hmm. And you're like, oh, we got to do YouTube too to even be heard. You might have to say, you know what, we might actually do a totally different channel. And if everybody's being entertaining, we're going to do something different. And it's not being different for different sake. It's being different because if you do the same, you're going to blend in. And if you blend in, at that point, you're kind of perceived as the same as. You have to work 10 times harder to find your niche to even get a dent into the conversation. So you might say, you know what, I'm gonna provide the most insightful, amazing Twitter feed that anybody has ever seen. I'm gonna do more articles on LinkedIn than anybody has ever done. I'm gonna publish my stuff on Medium.com, and I'm gonna do one new tip every day for 3 months that absolutely takes someone from 0 to 100. I mean, you have to be resourceful. You have to be inventive. You have to look at the channels of distribution as much as an opportunity to differentiate as how you communicate yourself in terms of your look, your brand, your design, your look, your feel, your voice, your tone. If everyone's pissed, you might be, the anti-pissed.
Absolutely.
Does that make sense?
Absolutely. It makes a lot of sense. I think that, sometimes you have to not be afraid to ruffle some feathers. Oh,
you have to. I consider ruffling feathers part of the process.
Fabulous.
And not from the standpoint of okay, I'm going to really piss this person off now. That's not from that standpoint, but from the standpoint of going in knowing, you know what, if you're going to introduce something new, you will ruffle feathers. I mean, that's just kind of just like you're going to take your next breath, you are going to ruffle feathers. That's just the way it is. It's kind of like if it's cold outside and you're going to open a door, you're going to feel a gust. That's part of the process.
Absolutely. I love it. So people should go and find you at risingabovethenoise.com, and they should also click the link below, pointing down, to get your free book. I've read it and it's amazing.
Yeah, the free book is really good. People love it. And all I can tell you is the new book, the hardcover, if people aren't willing to invest in that much into themselves, then they shouldn't be in business for themselves. I mean, you have to invest in yourself. And I can only say that having spoken to many, many business owners who have purchased this and told me what they realized after reading this book, they've never read a book like that before. And one for one, people say, I've read it twice. because it's a quick read. If you're on a flight, you can read it, the entire book on a flight. It'll probably take you on the average 2.5 to 3 hours to read the whole book. And then people always, when they're done, they're like, I got to read this again, because it's almost like a conversation. It's almost like sitting down and talking with me and having a conversation, and it will blow people away. And if they don't believe me, they can just go to Amazon and read the 30 plus reviews people said. The reviews are why I did this. It blows me away what people have gotten out of it. And so that was the thing, because I kept on finding myself going over this stuff over and over and over with every client, no matter what size, no matter whether they were B2B, B2C, whether they were large, whether they were and had been in business for 100 years, or if they literally were a startup and they had X budget to just do the startup. Every time I would go over these same points, and I was like, I just have to put this in the book.
Yeah.
And anytime that I was like assumptive, then I thought, maybe they need to, then maybe they probably already know this point. I'm not going to raise this point. Anytime I thought that about one of the points that I include in the book, they would always say something that showed me they had no clue about that. And now I was forced to cover the point that I thought I didn't have to mention. And so anytime that I was hopeful or optimistic, it just reared its ugly little head and said, no. Hey, I'm stupid in the area. Let's go for it. And there's no problem with not knowing something, but there's a problem when you don't avail yourself of something when it's there. And that's all I can say is get the book. It's not for me. Get it for you, your team. You'll be blown away. It will blow you away.
Absolutely. What a fantastic gift and a fabulous resource. Thank you so much.
Oh, my pleasure. Totally. Thanks.
And everybody click the link below, get the resource, because you want the book, and get on David's email list, because honestly, he's one of those people that I actually open the emails from every single time.
Love it.
Thank you.
You're
Bye.
very welcome.